Hello! Welcome to Levels Plus Weekly episode 29. And this is going to be a jam-packed one since I took the week off. I've got two anniversaries I'm going to be talking about. I've got a trip to my favorite game store, and I've got pickups. So, just a bevy of just all kinds of things to get through today. So, what are the anniversaries? Well, Metroid is turning 35 as of August 6th, which is when I'm recording. That's why I have this shirt on. And why I've got a whole slew of amiibo kind of chilling over here from the series. And we're going to talk about my experience with the franchise as well as my 5 favorite games from it. But it's also this very project's anniversary. Levels Plus is turning 20 today, which blows my mind. So we'll be covering that as well. After the discussion on these anniversaries, I will share my trip to Gamers in Control in Salinas. And then after that, there will be some pickups. Lots and lots of pickups. It's also Flavia's birthday today. I put it on the anniversary for Levels Plus just to help me keep it in mind. She's asleep up on the fridge right now, but we'll have some cat intermissions with her. But today we're going to mostly have fish intermissions because I had a lot of footage from the aquarium. And while I did make a video, which here you go if you are inclined, on that trip, we'll do some highlights for this particular segment of my life. Yes. So let's get into Metroid. Let's talk about Metroid as a series for me personally, and then what I think are the best games from it. So I played the original Metroid probably when I was 7 or 8. I'm sure I rented it. I never owned it as a kid, but I did rent it from time to time. And I thought it was so fascinating, even though I never really got it until I was a little bit older. It's such a cool game, honestly, for the time. It's a very revolutionary. It's a little clunky now. I just replayed it recently, so I feel that it's a little bit clunky, but it's still such a delight to experience just how ahead of the curve, honestly, Metroid is, considering it came out in 1986. Just a phenomenal game. And then the sequels would take that core and just really experiment with what the future meant. So Metroid 2 went in a different direction, and you're hunting Metroids, so you have to defeat a certain amount to continue progressing. Super Metroid took the formula of the original Metroid and refined it in such a way that it is almost the perfect game in a lot of ways. Metroid Prime applied it to first person. Fusion added a horror element with the SA-X chasing you around, as well as inheriting Metroid DNA, so stuff that used to be a thing you could do is no longer a thing you can do, which is kind of cool. Echoes had the light-dark beams and added ammo to the beams, which ultimately proved to be probably its biggest downfall, but it's still a really good game. So on and so forth. Just neat iterations on the formula, which Dread looks to be taking what Fusion started and pushing that horror aspect to the forefront, and I'm very excited about it. I can't wait for October to get here and be able to play it. Samus is my second favorite heroine in all of games, right behind Jade from Beyond Good and Evil. Her Samus Returns armor is actually my favorite of them all because I love these big bulky shoulders that she has. I think that's really rad. I just adore Samus. You'll get an opportunity to learn more about my fandom for Samus in Femtendo 1983 to 86 because I updated an essay that I did on Samus for the book, and it's got really cool photos, which have a teaser of a couple of them here. Metroids are one of my favorite enemies, if not my favorite enemy of all time. And Zero Suit Samus is my least favorite version of Samus, but I liked Zero Mission enough. I like that segment quite a bit, so I added that amiibo in, which I'll talk about in a little bit when we get to the pickups, because that is the newest thing that you're going to see right now in terms of my Metroid stuff. So I love this series. Super Metroid is my second favorite game of all time. Metroid Prime's in the top 50, and then Zero Mission and Samus Returns are in the top 111. Just a phenomenal series all the way around. It's had some low points. I would say in terms of my low point was Metroid Prime 3 Corruption. I just hated the motion controls. It's unfortunate, but that is the case for me. That's why I never got Metroid Prime Trilogy, and just never had an interest in getting it for the Wii U. If it comes to Switch, which rumors keep saying that it will, I hope that there's button controls, because otherwise I will probably not be interested in picking it up. I've got 1 and 2 for Prime on the GameCube still, after reacquiring 2 last year, and I'm happy to have that back. And I've never played Other M. That's the most controversial one, outside of maybe Federation Force, which I haven't played either. But I just didn't really want to get into Other M. It just looked like a troubled project, and it does so much damage to my good friend Samus Aran. So I just don't want to get into it. I don't even want to play it. But I adore the series. It's my... I would say, if I don't deal with franchise rankings and assigning points, I would say Metroid is my second favorite franchise behind Castlevania in terms of my overall love and respect for it. That's why I have all these amiibo. That's why I'm trying to collect all the games that I'm interested in. I don't have too many left, actually. Dread will be a big fill, and then I guess I would want to get a cart of Metroid 2 at some point. And I'm wanting to get a boxed Japanese Super Metroid, because I think that would be cool. I like the box art a little bit more. Alright, exposition out of the way. What are the 5 best games in the series? I still feel that the original Metroid is fantastic and is my number 5 choice. I think that on the whole, what Nintendo did way back when was, like I said earlier, revolutionary. Just all the vertical exploration was unheard of on the Famicom at that time. And while it's a bit tedious to get around and things are not crystal clear, it requires a lot of experimentation if you don't have a guide, it's still a really fun game, and I think that in a lot of ways it holds up pretty well for the NES. I replayed it this year on the NES Switch app, but I played the Famicom Disk System version for the first time, and that was kind of cool. It was a little different, mostly in the music. But I love this original experience. It's definitely worth checking out if you haven't. I would recommend playing it with a guide though. That's what I did, and it kind of streamlines things. Some people might scoff at me suggesting that, but I just feel like, unlike the later games in the series, Metroid 1 is really wandery, and you just don't really have any sense of direction unless you're paying really close attention or making your own maps. So that's just my personal recommendation. You do you. Number 4 is Metroid Samus Returns, which was Mercury Steam's first crack at the franchise. They are developing Dread right now, and I have to say that they did a really good job with their first attempt with the series. Honestly, the biggest problem with Samus Returns is the respawn rate of enemies and the over-reliance on the melee counter, which I'm hoping Dread learns from. So what do I mean? So when you're wandering around, and some of these rooms that you wander around in are enormous, a big part of the Metroid series is backtracking, because you get a power and then you can go back to areas you have been to before to get more power-ups. Well, with this game, Mercury Steam tuned the enemy respawn rate to be really short. So you can walk from one end of a huge room, realize you have to go back, and then you have to probably fight more than half of the enemies you've already dealt with on the way back, because that's just how the respawn rate is. It's tuned way too high, and I'm hoping that Dread corrects that. The other issue is that the big feature for Samus Returns, outside of the Aeon system, which is coming back for Dread, is the melee counter, which is a really cool mechanic, and it makes Samus look like the coolest bounty hunter that has ever lived. I love that mechanic in terms of how it executes. I don't like having to rely on it to fight nearly everything. It's way too important to the general gameplay flow. It should be something that you can do if the opportunity presents itself, but it shouldn't be the only way that you can weaken an enemy to be able to shoot it. So my hope is that both of those things are tuned in Dread. What I've seen of the game looks like, yes, they have paid attention to those critiques and have made that change, and it looks much more like you can blast things instead of having to counter everything. And I haven't seen enemies respawn quite the same way, so I'm hoping that those are both corrected. But otherwise, I really enjoyed Samus Returns. The third issue with that game is there was no reason. There was no reason. Anyway, number 3 is Metroid Zero Mission. Now, some people would say this is the greatest Metroid game. In fact, I've seen a couple takes on that. And I think that is totally up to the individual. I think that Zero Mission is a superb game. It's my third favorite Metroid game. And it has far fewer faults than the prior two on my list. But ultimately, what happens with Zero Mission is that it is more tuned for expert play. And what I mean by that is that there's some power-ups that you're just not going to get unless you master Shine Sparking. And that is using the speed booster, getting it built up, and then ducking, and then being able to get to specific areas while you still have the charge to break through blocks. There's a lot of power-ups that are locked behind that system, more so than in Super and more so than in Fusion. And it makes getting 100% a little frustrating if you're just wanting to get through the game. I'm sure that there are people that love that, but it's not me. I'm less execution heavy when it comes to Metroid games. I'm more exploration and discovery instead of just pinpoint gameplay stuff. That's just how I am. That's really the only complaint I have about Zero Mission, though. I like the Zero Suit part at the end. I like that extra bit of gameplay. I feel like getting the fully powered up suit is a really awesome moment that feels great. And the core experience before all that added content is also a wonderful retooling of the original NES game. I do wish that Kraid wasn't big, but that's just me. I felt like that kind of cheapens what happens in Super Metroid, but it's okay. It's okay. On the whole, I have very little to complain about in Zero Mission beyond execution and maybe Kraid. So, number 2 is Metroid Prime. The little game that surprised everyone with how good it was. It's kind of like the GoldenEye of the GameCube, where no one really expected a whole lot from it, but it became one of the powerhouse titles of that generation for Nintendo. Personally, I think Metroid Prime is the best game Nintendo made on the GameCube, above Smash Bros. Melee, above the Zelda Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, above Mario Sunshine for sure, above Double Dash. It's their best game. That's just how I look at it. It is superbly executed. It is a delight to experience that world and to scan everything. It captures that exploration piece so well. And Retro Studios managed, under really strenuating circumstances, to make that game sing above and beyond any expectation for it. it outshone Fusion, which was a traditional 2D Metroid by the original Metroid team. So that says a lot, honestly. Because those both came out within like a few months of each other, or really close together. But Prime is a wonderful game. I would love to replay it. I just don't have the current way of doing so legally. That doesn't involve motion controls. Because I am not buying Trilogy on the Wii U because I'm not playing this game with motion controls. They get controlled just fine on the GameCube controller. So, lovely game. Highly recommended if you haven't played it. Number 1, which shouldn't be a surprise since I told you earlier that this is my second favorite game of all time. Super Metroid. What a game. What an incredible game Super Metroid is. I remember getting Super Metroid on my Super Nintendo during the GameCube era. Because I missed out on the 16-bit stuff. I'm sure I've said that somewhere. I didn't have a Super Nintendo or a Genesis or a TurboGrafx or anything like that. And I didn't get a PlayStation or a Saturn. So, like, I went from the NES to the N64, and then I went to the GameCube. But when I got the GameCube thereabouts, I also got a second model Super Nintendo. And I got Secret of Mana and Secret of Evermore with it at the time, but really quickly I knew what I wanted to get. Super Metroid was at the top of that list, with Chrono Trigger right behind it. Both of those games didn't disappoint, because they're 2 and 3 on my list, respectively. But I've kept my Super Metroid cart that I got at FuncoLand way back in the day, when that was an actual thing that existed. I have it on my Super NES Classic. I have it through the Switch. It's an incredible game, almost flawless. It's about as perfect a 2D experience as you can get. The biggest complaint, honestly, that I have is the finicky wall jump, but there's a reason why it's like that. I think that it was one of those technical things, and again, as I said earlier, I am not an execution person so much as I am an exploration person. So, wall jumping is neat, but once I get the screw attack, I don't really care to deal with it anymore. The screw attack and the space jump, I should say. But you can, if you have a Switch, you can play it on the Super NES online app right now. Highly recommend it. It's such a splendid game. I'm going to probably attempt to play that before October in Dread. Do a replay of that on the Switch, because that'll be fun. But just what an iconic game. And like the hype, in my opinion, for that game was absolutely justified. Absolutely justified. Stupendous. It's stupendous. It's a stupendous game that made me love the franchise the way that I do now. So, congratulations to Samus and Metroid for 35 years of awesome action exploration and co-opting the term Metroidvania. Samus is such a great character. I'm looking forward to continuing her story in Dread, and then in Prime 4 when that happens. Seeing where that takes Samus in the past. Unless they do something really unique with Prime 4 and set it after Dread, which who knows? We don't know anything about Prime 4. But it's a good time to be a Metroid fan. It's nice to know that we've got 2 games coming down the road. Alright. Well, that is my Metroid section, so let's take a little pause here, and then I'm going to talk about Levels Plus. Yes, I'm sure that's not what you were expecting when you came back on, was a random puppet sitting in the chair. I just felt like I was digging it out of my closet when I was doing some other stuff. So thought I'd share. Thought it'd be a cute little gag. I've been doing this stuff for 20 years. That just seems incredible to me. That is more than half of my life at this point. I have been involved with doing stuff with levels in some incarnation. In 2001, I started a site called Wildcat Online on Tripod. Remember that? You remember that? And it was just a goofy fan site. It primarily had some of my artwork. It had art of stuff that I was into. It had embarrassing content on it because I was 18. That I would just be aghast to even think about now. I apologize as my present self. It's just not the person I am anymore. I've grown a lot in 20 years, I do have to say. I do believe very strongly that the brain just doesn't really become a grown-up until mid-20s, and that's kind of when you're like, oh, this was a bad idea. And it was around 2005, I want to say, when Wildcat Online became Levels, or Level, actually. See, I have to be careful because there's so many incarnations of this project. So, about 2005, Level, LVL, period, showed up, replacing the Wildcat Online. So I moved a lot of that old stuff off of it altogether. I opened up an art site separately on Tripod so I could put my art there, and then I made a game blog. So I started doing news, I started doing reviews. I did archive a good chunk of that on Levels Plus in the last year. I want to say I did a lot of that in 2020. So you can see some of that content if you look up archives. You can pull up some of that stuff. And I invited a friend, Nestor, to co-author stuff, and we worked together on that for quite a while, probably 5-6 years, where we worked together on Levels. Because when in 2009, I left Tripod and started Levels on WordPress, which is the site that still exists. But it was still very news heavy, so it was kind of just like a news site where Nestor and I would post stuff. And then I added a couple other friends, Tay and Jason X. They joined the staff over the 2009 to 2012 period of the site, and it was a lot of fun. There was a lot of really cool stuff that the four of us came up with. We even did like a pre-podcast, like round robin thing, where we would talk about something and then just kind of post the result of that conversation. And I don't even really remember where we were doing that. There's probably some chat program that I don't remember. But it was a cool concept. But ultimately what happened around 2012 is I was getting ready to go back into university. I was going to go get my BA in anthropology. So, and Nestor had wanted to leave and do his own thing, which he did for a little while, as Lark's Island, and then he was helping Hardcore Gaming 101 there for a while. I'm not really sure what he's up to now. And then Tay and Jason left around the same time, so everybody just kind of, like, it was time for that project to end, basically. So I closed Levels down about 2012, 2013, I don't quite remember the exact day. And I made a decision that I was going to open up a new blog, Pixels, Polygons, People, Planet, focusing on my anthropology work. And so I moved the critical stuff that I was doing, like my what became Femtendo, as well as the localization articles, which are now Culture Clash. Those moved over there and continued, and then I did a few other things over there. So I was doing that while I was at university, and then think in 2016, I decided I wanted to reopen Levels, so I opened it as Levels Plus, and that's what currently exists. The unfortunate thing is that in that 2013 moment, I decided to purge most of the old content, which in hindsight I kind of regret, but I feel like Levels Plus just needed a revamp because it needed to be my thing at that point. And so a lot of the content that was previously existing was shared content, and I think that its time had come. And some of it you can still check out on the Internet Archive. Some of it still exists there, but ultimately Levels Plus continues to be a place where I do game discussions. I've been doing a lot more video than I've been doing written stuff, but I'm trying to work on the written piece a little bit more. I had that Dead Space article that I felt was better as a written piece. And that's kind of how it's going, as I'm making determinations on what seems to make the most sense. But it's been a wild ride. And in a lot of ways, I've splintered Levels, the original concept, into 3 sites. Because the original Levels also had my art, but I moved that to its own area, which is visuals. And here's the address for that. And then I also have my non-game academic work, as well as my all my book stuff, as well as highlights of all of my work on my personal blog, which I don't update a whole lot, but that's here. Check that out. And then of course I have my book blog, which is a completely separate entity from Levels altogether, which covers Heritage Press and Limited Editions Club books. So that's a totally different playlist, and you can check that out on the YouTube channel as well. Those are fun. It's a different mindset to work on that project, but it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of fun collecting those books too. But ultimately, I'm very proud of what Wildcat Online became, even though its origins were sketchy, as most things as an 18-year-old is. I've done a lot of really cool stuff with Levels. The book Above My Head, for instance, First Freak of Fantasy, was connected to Levels. Femtendo is going to be coming out soon. I don't know if August is quite when it's going to be out, because there's quite a bit left to do on it, so September is looking more likely. But it'll be out before the year's up, I promise you that. Got lots of videos, ideas swimming around in my head, and I've got some stuff that I'm gonna try to get going in terms of the written as well. So lots to look forward to in the next 20 years of doing this. Really just a remarkable feat, honestly. I'm very proud of what this has become, honestly. And I want to thank you. I want to thank anyone who has come to any of the sites and my YouTube channel over these 20 years and commented when I was allowing comments, or thumbed up something, or watched my content, or read my content, shared it. It's been quite the experience on the whole, and it's just really cool getting my voice out there. I still think my proudest moments with Levels as the whole is the book up there, of course. Femtendo, when it happens, I'm really excited about that. Being on Critical Distance twice for stuff I was really passionate about with what happened with Ubisoft, and trying to figure out, well, how do I feel about my favorite game? Both of those being spotlighted on there really made my day. And there's a lot of other cool stuff that I've done. The Belmont Chronicles, actually getting into the history of the original Castlevania and trying to figure out who worked on it. That was a lot of fun. I wish that I didn't drop that, but maybe I can get into another section this year. I've done some really cool retrospectives on Metroid, on Mario. in the earlier days, which are still around, which I think is really cool. Then there's the localization stuff, which has been on the back burner for a while. But I think once I get through a couple years of Femtendo, I'm going to get the first book of Culture Clash going. That'll probably be a next year thing, I'm going to think. And of course, all these cool videos I've been doing, I've really been enjoying that as well. Just so much neat stuff that I've done. And that's not even getting into the art. Like, I've done some really cool comics and illustrations over the years that had a bit of a connection to Levels. And then, of course, some of my academic work I'm really proud of. That's hosted now on Levels. So, cool stuff. It's made me a better writer. It's made me more comfortable with myself. It's made me feel like I'm a games person. You know, it's really cool. So we're gonna take a break, and we're gonna jump into my trip to Gamers in Control next.
Right. I am in Salinas, and not that far from me is I believe it's called the North Ridge Mall. You can kind of see it outside my window there, the Macy's and the Skechers at least. I'm going to walk on over and drop off my stuff and talk real quick with the proprietor of Gamers in Control, and then get started on the filming.
Alright, and here we are inside Gamers in Control in Salinas. That's Aaron. That's the owner of Gamers in Control. I've been coming here since about 2011, and I love this place. It used to be in a different, smaller space in the mall, but he's gotten big enough to be right on the outside, prime real estate, and it's just an awesome shop. You can see he's got modern stuff, so there's Switch, PS4. He's also got some PSP stuff. There's Wii games there. There's some DS and 3DS stuff, but he's also got a lot of retro stuff. So over here is that's some of the cooler limited run console stuff, but here is a lot of the Nintendo stuff. So as I zoom in, we've got some NES games, got some Super Nintendo stuff, including some box Super Famicom games, N64, some box stuff, Lynx games, which is interesting, Game Boy Advance box, NES box, there's some Game Boy stuff, Game Boy Advance, DS, 3DS, couple box 3DS games, and then here's the back wall, some of the cool art that he's got in the place. This is where most of the new stuff is. So Switch, PS4, PS5, Xbox Series. And then a little bit closer look at some of the cool consoles and rare games he's got in here, including some limited run stuff and the Neo Geo Pocket that he had backlit. Here's the Sony cabinet. So a lot of PS1, PS2, PSP, and PS Vita stuff in here. You might have noticed a lot of Funko Pops. He has a ton of those, so if that's an area of interest, definitely want to check him out. And this is the Sega cabinet, so Genesis, Master System, Game Gear, Dreamcast, Saturn, and then TurboGrafx for good measure. TurboGrafx did tempt me, I do have to say. Never seen one in person before. So yeah, lots of Funko Pops. And then a look at the back wall. Aaron's a great guy, I have to say. I've really enjoyed working with him over these 10 years. Here's some of the action figures he's got. He's really stepped up his game on that front in recent years. Here's some of the old school original Xbox stuff. Quite a bit of that when I stopped by. And then here's the Wii U stuff that he had out. And then there's a little look at the PS2 and the back wall. This is a cool cabinet. It's got a lot of game ephemera in here. Magazines and strategy guides as well. Here's some more of the awesome art he's got hanging up in here. I need to remember to talk to him about maybe getting something of mine in there. Here's some more PS2 stuff. Pretty cool. None of those particularly leaped out to me. And then just a quick run through of the back wall. Xbox 360 stuff there. Dragon Ball figures, wide array of them. Xbox One. And then here's a whole bunch of Amiibo and PS4. And then here's the front. I had a lot of customers coming in and out, so I was trying to not get their faces in the frame, so that's why this is a little bit short. But love this store, recommend it highly. Welcome back, Levels Plus Weekly. It is 6:40 in the morning on Friday after getting back. I'm a little tired. The sun is blocked by fire smoke. Great times to be in California, let me tell you. So I've got lighting sources all over the place trying to just make this work because I want to get this done before it gets too hot. So I got a bunch of stuff with Gamers in Control, plus I picked up something in the mail on my way down to Monterey. So let's go ahead and knock that out first. So I got the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles for the Switch. Finn is very excited to play this with me, apparently. But you want to say hi to the people? You want to say hi? You want to say hi to the people? Where's the people? So the rest of these are from Gamers in Control, and I got a lot of things, a lot of cool stuff. I love going there. I always get a lot of credit when I go, and this time I got the most credit I've ever gotten. I got $775 in credit. So I had a good time. So let's start off with some Nintendo Powers that I got. I got 4 issues from the NES era. So I got the Star Trek issue, which is volume 29. I got the Vice Project Doom issue, which is 24. Got Power Blade, which is the NES game I covet the most. That's 23. And I got Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, which is issue 26. All of them have their posters. They're all in really good shape. They'll be great to add to the rest of the Nintendo Powers I've got locked down under here. So very happy to add those to the collection. I'm really interested in the NES era of Nintendo Power because that's where I tend to do a lot of my research. I got 2 more Switch games on top of getting Great Ace Attorney in the mail. And the first is, hey, look at that. It's the Japanese version of Ace Attorney Trilogy. This will work in English. So I was able to finally free up some hard drive space. And then I also got Monster Hunter Stories 2, Wings of Ruin. I wanted to pick this up. Just the timing wasn't great, but with credit and it was there, totally made sense to pick it up. I like the demo a lot. I got 2 NES carts. I got Bionic Commando, which might surprise you. I didn't actually have it on the NES. I've had it a couple times over the years, but this one's a really nice copy other than the label on the back, which I'm gonna have to see if I want to try to get that off. I also got Where in Time is Carmen Sandiego for Nintendo in the future. The front is really good, but there is some what looks like nail polish on the back, but I'll deal with it later. This is the most expensive thing I got. It's a complete, in pretty good condition, Tactics Ogre, Knights of Lotus for the Game Boy Advance. Did not expect to see this there. I saw it pop up on his Instagram, but didn't think it would still be sitting there, but it was. So since I am on the hunt for the Ogre games, I decided to go ahead and go for it. I had the credit. The other expensive thing I got was Guilty Gear Strive's Ultimate Edition. So whenever I get a PS5, I got this. I got all the DLC. Probably will be around that time when all the DLC's out. But everything I've seen about Guilty Gear Strive makes me want to play it, so I didn't mind. And that's actually the version I wanted to get. Then I got Legend of Mana for the PS4. Since Square Enix decided not to release this physically on the Switch, I decided I might as well grab it for the PS4 while it was there. It'll probably look just a tad bit better on the PS4 anyway. I got Resonance of Fate. Now I have this digitally, but I've always wanted to have it physically, and I've just never seen it when I've gone over there, but hey, it was there this time. And it's complete. And then I got 2 PS2 games. I got Suikoden Tactics. I've had this before, but before I didn't have the rest of the Suikoden series on the PS2. Now I do, so it felt kind of weird to not have this, so I was glad to see it there. It's with the soundtrack CD too. And then I got Castlevania Lament of Innocence, which is complete, and I know that the PS2 Castlevanias are not as good as their 2D equivalents, but I do want to get Curse of Darkness in this as well, just because I'm trying to get all the Castlevania games in some form that won't drive me to the brink of my wallet. He had a Castlevania Legends there too, but it was just the cart, and it was more than I think it was more than Tactics Ogre was complete. I think it was like 200, and I was like, I don't want that game that bad. It's not that good anyway. I also got Hero no Ken 3 complete in box. It's missing the top, but it's kind of cool to have the complete version of this. So this will be for Nintendo in the future. And then I got a bunch of Amiibo. So I got the Inkling Girl from Splatoon 2. I have never seen the Splatoon 2 regular Amiibo at all. So being able to finally get this one is awesome because I've wanted it for a very long time. I also got another Guardian Amiibo. I think this is Daruna. I forget his name. This is a Breath of the Wild Amiibo. There is the Inkling Splatoon 2 Amiibo. So I did not get the Inkling Boy. That was the only one he didn't have. And then the rest of these are Smash Amiibo. So I got Zero Suit Samus. I'm not the biggest fan of Zero Suit Samus. I've gone on record about that before, but I've not actually seen Zero Suit Samus. And while I'm not a big fan of the design of the Zero Suit, I decided that I'm just going to go ahead and get it, so that way I just can have it. And then Palutena. I missed this one. I should have grabbed it at Toys R Us when it was on clearance. And then I got Ken, because I traded out my old, is it NECA figure? I don't even remember what that Ken was from. Traded him in and got the Amiibo instead, which was just kind of a nice little benefit. So that's what I got. I'm very happy with it all. And always fun to go to Gamers in Control. I always get a lot of awesome stuff for myself, based primarily on getting credit. It's also kind of amazing how much the used game market has changed. I think that was partially why I got so much credit, was because I turned in stuff that just has gone up a lot, and then so have the prices. So I was able to get a lot of cool stuff, but if I broke down, like I didn't get Guilty Gear or Tactics Ogre, I probably would have got some other things and had a bigger pile. But when you got $775 in credit, you just kind of just go for the bigger things. There was a couple things I was looking at that I considered, but I just decided against it. He had a backlit Neo Geo Pocket that was custom. That was $300. I don't have any Neo Geo Pocket games. He didn't have any for sale, so it didn't really make sense just to have hardware. He also had a TurboGrafx 16. First time I've actually seen one in person. But again, he didn't have any games that I wanted for it. And I'm not sure if it's region locked. So I just decided to not worry about that. I'm pretty happy with the TurboGrafx Mini that I have. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode talking about Metroid and then my Gamers in Control experience, both there and after. We'll see you for next week. Until then, please take care.